Hello, I'm Solomon Tibabu, the host of the Going Digital Behavioral Health Tech Conference. I'm thrilled to have Mike Civello here, Chief Business Development Officer of Rethink. Mike, why don't you get started by introducing yourself, please?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Mike. I brought Rethink Benefits to market in 2014. We're a behavioral health technology solution that empowers employee parents to work more effectively with their children and adolescents, really focused on mental behavioral health and well-being.
Which is a really important topic. As you know, adolescents, children have been impacted so much so by this pandemic, and really excited to dig in more in how you're doing that. So for our audience who might not be familiar, can you explain what is Rethink?
Sure, of course. Well, for the audience, I'll back up a little bit and share some of our journey. Rethink went to market in 2014. Rethink as an organization has a K-12 business working in education systems, an employer business, which I'm going to elaborate on quite a bit today, and a healthcare business working with providers in the field who serve patients. We started in the market as an education system, and really no matter where we're functioning, whether it's schools or in the home with families, in the workplace, or of course in the provider patient care setting, one common through line or mission, which is to use technology to scale clinical best practices and trainings to individuals and or those around them who have developmental disabilities. Of course, I'll elaborate on our growth in a minute, which is really going well beyond developmental disabilities, but that's really how we started. It was to solve for such a shortage of resources and providers. And so in schools, it was helping teachers really adopt best practices in terms of managing children in the classroom who had autism or related developmental disabilities through the lens of behavioral interventions. So giving teachers bite-sized video trainings and professional development support through clinicians so that they could get really practical skills and abilities. We grew that business into the employer market. So I joined in 2014 and brought Rethink Benefits to market shortly after. And we really work directly with major employers. We work with a pretty big segment of the Fortune 1000. About 30% of the Fortune 100 offer Rethink to their entire, not just domestic, but global workforces. And our mission is to empower employee caregivers to really help their child reach their full potential. And we do that through our digital solution, which provides instructional videos so that parents can really see super simple, practical video trainings so that they can learn how to work with a child on brushing his or her teeth independently in the morning, or getting dressed, or practicing good hygiene, something all parents need and want to do. But if you have a child with a developmental disability like autism, children with certain conditions can't necessarily learn from mom or dad observationally or through normal parenting methods. There's really no playbook for parenting anyway. So what do you really give to parents who need extra support, who need some expert guidance? That's really what Rethink's role is. And we've coupled the online training solution with teleconsultative services. So the ability for employees to speak directly to our team of clinicians. Our team of clinicians are specialists in the field in terms of treating and working with children with developmental disabilities. And in our instance, they're really on hand for anyone at the company who needs support. You can contact us day or night, weekends, even 2 a.m. And there's no diagnostics required. You don't need to go through health coverage plans. We're really open source. So any family theoretically could work with Rethink. And we will jump on the phone or do a video call, really one-to-one, build a relationship with that employee and their family, understanding their needs, and then we'll work on strategies that that employee can leverage to elicit better results with their child in their home life. You know, we really explain it as though we're not something else for parents to do. We're really helping parents do what they really need and desperately want to do with and for their children. We're just helping them do it much more efficiently and effectively through the lens of a behavioral expertise. Really important. Of course, you mentioned the pandemic, a major challenge for working families right now. Rethink is so in demand because we are a digital solution, telephonic in nature. A lot of the in-person support systems for children have been very limited. Um, Clinicians have not been able to enter the home. We all know the school settings have been disrupted or virtual off and on, if not consistently, since the pandemic started. And so having someone at your fingertips through your phone or computer that can really work with you on virtual learning exercises, even how to set up your home environment, having dedicated spaces for work versus play leisure, versus maybe active listening or reading time or quiet time. Very important to establish those home-based spaces and routines. That's just an example of really what we do and how we help. But it's also been a pivotal moment for Rethink and our growth. Beyond developmental disabilities, we started to get a lot of interest from families who had children who were typically developing, not developmental disabilities or conditions, but more so they really needed some expert support and guidance and training on, well, really, how do I manage my child's mental health? How do I support my child who's experiencing isolation or trauma, misses their friends, is maybe regressing in school or needs additional social support? Huge challenges really for all families. So it's been a big change for us. Our journey was really empowering and working on the neurodiverse community and children with developmental disabilities, but we've really grown and evolved into a full platform helping all employees, parents of all children, and through the acquisition of Will, an enterprise-based training and resiliency platform for all employees and managers. We're really headed in an important direction, really building a full ecosystem for mental and well-being.
Really great background, Mike. Super helpful. So, behavioral health tech is really hot right now, as you can see. But what is it about Rethink that makes you unique?
Great question. And there is a lot going on, particularly with CBT and mindfulness, et cetera. I think what makes Rethink so unique in terms of our approach, first and foremost, is that, we're really looking very practically at the personal, parenting, and professional journeys. And at our core, we've always been a train the trainer model, really focused on skill building. So if you think of where we started in the K-12 business, teaching teachers, we're continuing to pull at that thread. And it's really this concept that if you train someone to then train someone else, this train the trainer skill building model, the effect of that is huge. We feel such a sense of fulfillment when we're able to see our results help someone else, whether it's helping a manager drive neurodiversity and inclusion or helping a parent see real progress and results with their child. Managers offering a solution like Will to their population for self-guidance and then seeing employees thrive. It really gives us such a sense of accomplishment. So our goal is always to conceptualize and drive programs that in essence are train the trainer and very clinically and expert driven and centric. There's lots of sort of gurus out there and celebrity endorsements. And I think we've always remained really committed to our clinical and academic focuses, really bringing in the best experts and thinking about everything from how can we really teach you and give you the skills and the skill building techniques that you need to really thrive on a daily basis. So I think it's about, making mental well-being, in essence, a daily practice. And you'll hear me come back to that theme throughout.
That is so exciting. I have even more questions now. But Mike, could you tell our audience a little bit about just generally, how does neurodiversity play a role in workplace mental health, equity, inclusion?
Right. Such an important topic. The first time I heard the term neurodiversity, it's important to go back to its genesis. And I can't really pinpoint if this is really where the term was coined initially, but I saw it used for the first time at Microsoft. It was related to their autism hiring program years ago. They started a targeted autism hiring program, a grassroots effort on one of their campuses. And they were really looking to attract and retain employees with autism who had immediately disclosed and were onboarded into a specialized program that included vocational and coaching and other types of supports. And there was a thought process that adults with autism had some significant gifts and contributions to the workplace. And they wanted to prove that out. And they did. They saw tremendous success. Adults with autism can have gifts like pattern recognition, detail orientation, really high degrees of intellect in specific fields. And they untapped a resource or a talent pool that largely has been overlooked. Hence the term neurodiversity, because they felt it was important. While they saw successes in the workers, there were, of course, challenges as well. They quickly realized that having a siloed program, sort of a bubble around this employee population, they weren't really thinking about the entire culture. How do you set employees up for success on the daily or out in the entire corporate culture, not just their cohort? And some of the gaps were just having appropriate managerial trainings, a cultural approach, and just the appropriate language and education for autism and neurodiversity. So neurodiversity for years was really almost synonymous with autism. And we felt it was important to decouple and redefine neurodiversity. And so we've been leading the charge in terms of driving a next level of manager trainings and inclusion programs online, not just for Microsoft in a specific disclosure-based program, but for all programs, and ensuring that neurodiversity is folded into the company's diversity, inclusion, and equity programs, following suit with LGBTQ, gender, race, sexual orientation, and so forth. And, we really level set and said neurodiversity isn't autism. If you just look at the breakdown of the roots of the word, it really just points to natural variances in cognition that lead to differences in the way that we all, emphasis on all, learn, communicate, and behave. And good inclusion programs start with education and using the right language as a first step. And I think a core focus should always be to train and spend time with managers first and foremost. So we've really educated companies that neurodiversity is really educating folks that there are differences in the brain, but really differences that are not perceptible right away, meaning it's not skin color, someone isn't in a wheelchair or has a hearing or visual impairment. There's a lot of differences in the way that we operate that are not immediately visible or known. And we need to respect that and understand it if we're going to have appropriate inclusion measures. And so we're really training managers to respect the non-visible and to understand that a condition like autism is only an example of neurodiversity, not neurodiversity in and of itself. Social anxiety disorder, dyslexia, thinking about our workplaces. And so our mission really is to create a conversation and drive education so that managers are better equipped to include individuals. So that if you were to do a targeted program or have better, more open and receptive dialogues that lead to more disclosures, you want to make sure that that individual is actually set up for success. So having vocational support or job placement, that's wonderful, but you're putting the cart before the horse. You need to really focus on your culture overall. Are you putting an individual into an environment that's going to be receptive and successful? Or are you putting an individual in an environment and they're going to be set up for failure, or they're not going to be well received? So it's really about level setting company-wide, using the right language and bringing some expertise, using technology to the table to help companies really go broad and get the necessary information out there.
Yes, that sounds like true inclusion. Um, so I got to ask, you mentioned earlier, just remarkable, more than 30 of the Fortune 100 are trusting Rethink. Super exciting. But how do you take what you're talking about and really scale that to large employers?
Right, great question. And it comes up so often. Um, Employers, especially of that size, have so many challenges. Multinational, um, very diverse populations, even depending on the company type. Like in Amazon, for example, you're dealing with huge corporate offices, but huge warehouses and fulfillment centers as well. So I think it's really important to leverage technology and build very simple, consumer-driven, intuitive systems and design that are usable by phone if there's no computer, and that you're really thinking systematically about the right supports. And so Rethink, as we've grown, we're really leaning into a lot of the digital revolutions out there, the big changes going on in terms of innovation. And instead of just delivering a very targeted solution, which is how we started, and we had such tailwinds there, helping parents of children with complex needs was really, really needed. But so many needs have become known with the pandemic. I think people are quite literally working and living in each other's homes. I'm coming to you from my bedroom. It's really been eye-opening for employers as they think about scale, but they also think about the needs in a much broader sense. It's no longer work and life balance or, child care. It's nuanced. It's really life care. There's so many different and varying needs and complexities that come with really wrapping your arms around an employee population who aren't employees, they're human beings. So how do you scale that? Of course, technology, of course, is critical. Hence this conference, why it's so important to look at the latest and greatest technologies. How are we really getting out there? But simplicity and clarity is critical. I think first and foremost, when we talk about scale, you have to really understand your populations. This is something that we work with the Fortune 100 on frequently, and why they do consider us to be an extension of their team. It's why we work with so many of them. We really understand the unique challenges and dynamics that they're facing. And you have to really think about it in three segments, and this helps simplify things. So mental well-being, family care, behavioral health, these are rather broad topics, can mean any number of things. This conference showcases that, how many different vendors and thought leaders are here today, 70, 80, 100, all bringing something unique. And so we find it important to start with more of a consultative approach for employers. So let's think of things in very simplistic terms. What is the personal journey? What is an employee's journey on a personal level as it relates to mental and behavioral well-being? And then what's the parenting journey? One of the biggest, most significant groups that has many different factors involved. And parenting isn't just parenting of children. It could be an aging parent or loved one, spousal care and caregiving. Everyone has parents, and or many are parents, or are in some role caring for someone in their lives. So family parenting is a really, really big moment. And then professional. So there's personal, as I started with. Personal is really our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our involvement with the community, our loved lives. Parenting, really that familial circle or sphere. And then professional, really, what are those work relationships, and how does the corporate culture sort of shape the dynamics? So there's personal, but personal can't be successful without environmental influence and factors working together. So we really break it down for scale in terms of personal, parenting, and professional. And to help employers really scale and address these unique journeys, to have a more holistic mental and behavioral well-being program, we've made significant advancements to Rethink's parenting tools. We leaned into COVID and really welcomed with open arms all parents. All parents needed support, particularly as it relates to their child or adolescence's mental and behavioral health. And then we acquired a company called Will. It's an enterprise-focused training and resiliency platform, helping with anything and everything from relationships with colleagues, and high stress job categories like finance or executive leadership, to simple and practical daily tips and strategies like yoga or sleep, daily affirmations, meditation. And I think working together in one ecosystem, yet adding modularity to it, this ability to address either personal, professional, parenting, or all of them, gives the Fortune 1000 flex to scale and grow with us. So we're really giving a diverse array of solutions, but with one common theme and mission for simplicity.
Really helpful. What an interesting approach. And congrats on the partnership with Will. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Um, I mean, Rethink, your entire team has made such interesting, amazing strides. You've really been a pioneer in this space. I'd love to know, where do you see the future of Rethink going?
Oh gosh, good question. Rethink's future is going where the market's going. We really build around our clients and participants' needs. So we are built for the enterprise. And so we're going where the enterprise is going. And it's going with technology, it's going with scale, it's going with inclusion. Again, following these journeys, we're going to continue to build programs that make sense for employers to attract and retain employees. And I think, so there's a short-term answer for sure. I think we're going very specifically towards very practical and directed mental well-being solutions, because right now, 76% of working adults have claimed to have had worker burnout during the pandemic. It's a problem. People are very stressed. There's been a consistent theme of roadblocks within mental health and well-being, largely driven by stigma. And so I think our near-term future is really tapping into and maximizing the tailwinds from the pandemic to continue this conversation, this narrative that, we are finally having a much needed, well-rounded conversation as employers related to mental health and well-being. Some of the stigmas around family care and, don't worry, I'm not a problem. I've got that covered. I can come into work today, but clearly people can't, is going away. I think some barriers have been broken down. And so our near-term future is to really lean into that and push employers hard to get to the next level in terms of an appetite for really setting a good example for employees. And it starts with leadership. What is leadership doing to set the tone and the example for mental well-being and making it okay to not be okay? How are employers fostering good dialogue around mental well-being? Are you creating a safe place for employees to disclose things like, hey, I'm having a lot of stress with my children. It's making it difficult to work. How can we work together to solve this so that I am more productive? Are managers trained to do that? Are you giving employees the tools that they need to help themselves? A lot of employer systems have been designed with only two ends of the spectrum: those who are already well, gym discounts, things of that nature, or those that have a chronic condition. If you're going to the EAP and getting access to someone because you have a really big problem, it's 9 times out of 10 way too late. So what's the journey? We use that word journey a lot. What are employees able to digest and use on a daily basis that really enhances their lives and makes well-being a daily practice? So I think the future for us is really to sort of bring this full circle, short and long term. Short term, really capitalizing on the tailwinds from COVID to continue to pull at the thread of stigma, but longer term, getting every employer to require that mental well-being be a daily practice, even if it's 5 minutes. It's critical.
Well, Mike, that's super exciting. Clearly, the future is bright for Rethink and all of the incredible work that you are doing and have already done. I'm so glad that you could be here with us to share more.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.